Hello and welcome to this section of the course. We will be covering trigonometric functions that are might be new to you. They are called secant, cosecant, and cotangent. In the first part, I'll introduce them to you. Then we'll slowly look at the graphs of each of them and using them in equations, in trigonometric equations, and building some new identities that you should be familiar with. And finally, we'll take the inverse of such functions and we'll solve some problems with that. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, in the first part, you should be familiar with the fact that secant is basically just inverse, or rather reciprocal of 1 over cos, 1 over cos of any angle. And cosecant is 1 over sine of any angle. And cotangent is 1 over tangent of that angle itself. I will show you in more details the picture on the top right corner. I can give you a link. It's with the graphic Desmos calculator. You can explore in more depth how these functions relate to each other and why is it that they're inversely related and how it comes about. But for now, just to point out a few mistakes that some people may make, I briefly said inverse cos, and that's not the right word to use. We know when we put a negative power of -1 on top of anything, that means 1 over it. But here in trigonometry, on your calculator, you'll find a bottom such that has cos of -1 on top of it. That is not 1 over cos. That is inverse of the function cos. And to avoid any doubts and any confusion, that's why mathematicians use the word arc cos rather than cos inverse. So that when they say arc cos, they mean inverse of the function. So these are not the same thing, and that's not the same as secant. So don't confuse that. Similarly, don't confuse cosec with inverse of uh, sine function. They're not inverse of, they are reciprocal of the function. Okay, so let's look at some questions. We were asked whether cosecant of angle 200 degrees, that's not in radians, in degrees, is it positive or negative? Well, we know cosecant is 1 over sine, and sine of 200 is a negative number because if you check the graph, we are looking at a value somewhere along here. So there is a negative, when sine is negative, 1 over a negative number is still negative. Next question is asking us find the value of secant of 280 degrees. Must point out this is in degrees again. And that means 1 over cos of 280 degrees. Now, there are a few ways that you can calculate this for yourself, but you can simply put it on the calculator, and 1 over cos of 280 degrees will give you 5.76. Now, cotan of 115 degrees is 1 over tan of 115 degrees. So that's what you should get from your calculator, negative 0.47. Right. Okay, in this next example, we are to calculate the exact value of secant of 210. Secant of 210 is 1 over cos of 210 degrees. Now, you can simply put it in your calculator and that would give you an answer. But briefly, just to discuss a few identities, cos of any angle is it's the same as cos of 2 pi or 360 subtracting that angle. So the complement of the angle, because cos curve goes something like so from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. So we can convert this by 210 into an acute angle if we subtract the value of 210 from 360 degrees. What we'll have is 150. So we could in fact use a value of 250. I know for a fact that both of these angles are somewhere along here, and if that's 210, that's how far away from 360 it is, and that's the same distance of how far 150 is from 0. So, and these two numbers are symmetric around 180 degrees. So that is the same as 1 over cos of 150 degrees, which in other words is 1 over cos of 5 over 6 pi. And the answer to that is negative root of uh, 3 over 2. So this fraction turns out to be actually negative 2 over root 3, which we can rationalize as negative 2 root 3 over 3. Okay, so let's look at the next example. In this example, we are to calculate cosecant of 3 pi over 4. So now they have switched the calculations from degrees to radians. So our calculation, if you're going to use your calculator, make sure your calculator is in degrees rather than in radians rather than degrees. So cosecant of any angle is 1 over sine of this angle. So what is the sine of 3 pi over 4? 3 pi over 4, as I've put it on this graph here, its sine is this opposite side, the red line that I'm drawing here, which is exactly the same height as sine of 1 over 4. Why is that? Because of the trigonometric identity that sine of any angle is equals to sine of that angle is complement from 180 degrees or pi minus that angle. So sine of 3/4 of a pi is the same as sine of pi subtracting 3/4 from that, which means complement of that with 100 with a pi, and that is sine of pi over 4. So sine of pi over 4 is 45 degrees. Of this angle is simply square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so we have 1 over the square root of 2 over 2, which means that we can flip this fraction and have 2 over root 2, and rationalizing that we'll have times root 2, and these two cancel each other out, and final answer is simply root 2. Just before I leave you, I noticed that I didn't solve any problems regarding cotangents and in general the tan function itself. So I've chosen these couple of questions just very quickly go over effects having the tangent function. From your previous modules in trigonometry, you should remember if this is a unit circle, tangent repeats itself every 180 degrees, or rather every pi degrees. So the tangent of this angle is the same as the tangent of this angle, because we are talking, or rather dividing opposite by adjacent. For the sign to be positive, it would be positive of opposite and adjacent, and dividing these two negative values would give you a positive answer as well. So what do we do to answer cotangent of 550? That means simply 1 over tangent of 550. But we can reduce 550 and take its modulus with every 180 degrees, right? So subtracting 180, and I can already see that there are 280 degrees that can be subtracted from that, and doing that, what we get is 190, I guess. So there is 190, and that means that we can subtract another 180 from that, and that means that that's the same as 1 over tangent of 10 degrees. Now, that's it. What is tangent of 10 degrees? Tangent of 10 degrees is tangent of 10 degrees is 0.17, and 1 divided by that fraction is actually 5.67. Okay, two decimal places. So what is the cotangent of 4 pi over 3? That means 1 over tangent of 4 pi over 3. And again, 4 pi over 3, that's the same as tangent of subtracting pi from that, leaves us with just 1/3 of a pi, and tangent of 1/3 of a pi is square root of 3. So the final answer, if we want to rationalize that, is root 3 over 3, multiplying that by root 3 by root 3. Okay, I hope that you find that helpful, and see you in the next lecture.